Welcome to the last episode of The Infinite Jungle. For the final episode of Season 2 of The Infinite Jungle, I have with me two guests, Łukasz and Marek from the Nethermind team. Thank you so much, Marek and Lukasz, for joining me for this episode.
Thank you very much for having us. It's our pleasure.
I'm excited to chat with you guys about the Ethereum development roadmap, specifically Pectra and Fusaka. For our listeners, before we get started with our conversation on Pectra and Fusaka, here is a quick show disclaimer. I need to remind you to please refer to the disclaimer linked in the podcast show notes and note that none of the information in this podcast constitutes investment advice, an offer, recommendation, or solicitation by Galaxy Digital or any of its affiliates to buy or sell any securities. Łukasz and Marek, Pectra has been quite the upgrade from the Pectra scoping discussions that went on far longer than expected to the very end, the public testnet upgrades that did not go as expected. I feel like from beginning to end, Pectra has been quite the beast of an upgrade. Would you agree with that sentiment that Pectra, unlike prior Ethereum upgrades, has been particularly difficult for developers to ship?
So I think compared to the merge, Pectra was relatively easy from the technical perspective, but of course we had these failures with Sepolia and Holesky.
Yeah, so I'm here from Berlin or no, Istanbul time. So for me, Pectra is compared to the merge, every other update is minor, to be honest. It was a bit bumpy road. I can agree with that, but I think nothing catastrophic happened. So even Holesky is now completely recovered, and it was a very good exercise in recovery actually, and coordination and how to recover from this kind of issues. And the issues were pretty much rare because there were super majority issues on Holesky. So for example, on Sepolia, the issues were a lot minor, and we recovered. It didn't really break the network, and we fixed it in a matter of, I don't know, hours probably or less. So it is a hard upgrade, and we can discuss scoping it separately because that's another thing. But I don't think anything critical happened yet with Pectra, and I don't think anything critical will happen with Pectra. So just part of being a core dev.
Pectra is the upgrade with the largest number of EIPs. How confident are the two of you that the upgrade will go smoothly on mainnet and that it will happen sometime in May? I know that by the time we're recording this, the Hudi testnet has not yet upgraded on Ethereum. There's still testing that needs to be done. But from your viewpoint right now, how confident would you say that Pectra will be live in May and that it will go smoothly?
So I think if all testing goes well, it might happen end of April even. And I would be really surprised if we find right now any blocking issues. So the Holesky and Sepolia was related to some minor differences in between mainnet and those testnets with deposit contract. So I would be really surprised if we find more issues right now.
I can agree to that. So the Hudi tests are more of just double checking things that we already kind of tested on DevNets. So I doubt there will be more problems.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, and there was also successful Chiado hard fork prepared for Nozzy's team. So yeah.
Yeah, there was, I think there was another ephemeri testnet went also fairly well as well through the Pectra upgrade, if I'm not mistaken.
To be honest, I don't following that much ephemeri testnets. but for sure we were monitoring closely Shadow and it went perfectly.
Łukasz, you mentioned the scoping discussions for Pectra. Let's talk, I mean, the scoping discussions for Pectra, there was that Pectra retrospective. Many developers kind of looked behind what happened to try and improve the Fusaka scoping discussions. Some of one of the kind of concrete norms or improvements, or I shouldn't even say improvements because it happened for Pectra, but one of the things Tim said he wants to continue doing for Fusaka is team views on the scope of the next upgrade. The Nethermind team has shared thoughts on the Pectra fork. For our listeners, could you remind our listeners kind of the key bullet points of what the Nethermind's team view is of what the Fusaka scope should look like, and some color on how you think the scoping discussions for Fusaka will progress? Because I have some thoughts. I'll definitely share them with you guys, but I'd love to just get your thoughts on this first.
Our team view about Fusaka. So we aim to ship Fusaka in this year, and the Fusaka scope should be finalized as soon as possible. PeerDAS is the most important feature, and we would like to see EOF in Fusaka along with a few additional small EIPs in this fork. So that's the most important things.
I totally agree. And maybe giving more context on the scoping, if I can weigh in. So, contrary to popular belief, actually, core devs became a larger group. We have more client teams, but also the client teams grew. And there is more and more things proposed for the protocol, for the APs, for example. And actually, what is happening is there is more and more parallel work, right? So, for example, while doing this, we are still working on statelessness, like vertical trees, binary trees, etc., or zero knowledge statelessness, or things for like EOF or PeerDAS were being developed concurrently to Pectra. And this brings a bit of a problem of wealth because now when we go to scoping, when we go to discussing this, it's sometimes hard to judge, for example, readiness of different EAPs. And it's hard to judge, and it's hard to even, for example, sometimes to overview all the EAPs, and it takes a lot of time. And so we are kind of having now a problem of our own success in some way of scoping it and coordinating it and testing it, right? Because shipping is this the last mile, always this 80-20 rule that the last mile always takes a longer time than you expect. And so contrary to some comments that core devs are shipping not enough, we are actually shipping kind of I don't want to say too much, but a lot in parallel. And there's this point of friction of this coordination, and we will be trying to resolve it for the next forks. I think one of the things we can resolve it with is kind of leapfrogging forks. So kind of we should finish Fusaka really quickly, scoping Fusaka quickly, and start scoping Amsterdam, right? So the things that we are implementing and testing, we can focus on that, and the scoping is now a little bit more loose, right? So we can put more separate those things, also parallelize them, the implementation, the scoping.
I hear you, Łukasz, in that the parallelizing efforts have been really great in having more resources dedicated to other efforts, but it's been a little bit of a double-edged sword because then you have so many EIPs from different efforts that you want to pack into a fork. That's actually why I think it's going to be very hard to leapfrog, and why I imagine that the scoping discussions for Fusaka will be drawn out. Very recently on the latest ACD call, there was quite a bit of good, strong rationale for including EIP 7688 into the fork. I know there's quite a few positive kind of leanings towards including EIPs that will help increase the block gas limit. that will likely get into the fork. I foresee that the scope of the fork for Fusaka, there's quite a few strong contenders that will make it in addition to PeerDAS and EOF, which are already quite large changes to the code base. Because of all this, number one, I don't really imagine that the scoping discussions will be any easier. And number two, it's very hard for me to see that the fork will happen this year because of this. I mean, do you kind of see where I'm coming from?
Totally see where you're coming from, but this is exactly why we can't allow for scoping a fork right before we want to ship it. This is exactly the thing, because if we do that, we get to this problem that we are in this uncertainty for a long time, and we cannot focus on implementation and testing correctly. So that's why this leapfrogging is, in my opinion, the only way of succeeding. And if you even take a look on other companies in a different field, like for example CPU manufacturers, like AMD, Intel, etc., they have multiple teams actually leapfrogging themselves. So they do use what the other team produces, but the other team already is working on the future products that will be released later, right, in the timeline. So this is exactly what we are proposing to do here, to kind of leapfrog ourselves. So think about Glamsterdam and think about even further forks, especially if you have something big. And we were doing that. For example, vertical trees is exactly what we were trying to do there, is to kind of scope things further into the future, because we knew that this thing is big and will require a lot of work and a lot of attention. So that's kind of, we were trying to do it already, but I think we'll be formalizing that more.
Just for example, so in Fusaka, the mistake might be to introduce, for example, fossil. And this is not like we don't want fossil. Everyone wants to improve censorship resistance, but this idea is pretty new, and such a new ideas tends to evolve, and because of that they might delay the final specification, final implementation, and testing, right? So I think it would be great to have fossil, but let's do it in Amsterdam, just to close Fusaka.
Interesting. Okay, one more potential problem that I see that I'd like your guys' thoughts on is decisions that have been made on ACD calls being reversed. So Verkle is a great example. Developers did schedule it for the fork after Pectra, but because of all these unexpected, the Pectra fork got too large, it had to be split out into two. Verkle was delayed, and now who knows when Verkle's going to get into a fork. There hasn't been a decision on Fossil yet, Marek, but developers already made a decision on EOF. And now, based on the commentary that I'm seeing on X and the focus, the developers' intense focus on PeerDAS, I'm a little bit worried that EOF might also be reversed. That decision to keep EOF in the fork might be reversed, and that it might be pulled out. I mean, to what extent are you guys concerned about, the scope of the fork being set and then changed again? Do you foresee that this could potentially be a problem to leapfrogging forks as it has in the past?
So the only certain thing is change, right? So we should embrace that. So it's not bad scoping a fork and then changing the scope. That's nothing wrong with that. I think the wrong thing is not having a longer term plan and the longer term roadmap. But changing it's completely fine, right? If we have really good reasons to change it, right? That's being agile in the at the base, right? That's what we want to do. Going back to concrete questions, vertical, we don't know, to be honest, where the vertical will go. I'm not sure. I think we will go to the statelessness, but how we'll get there, if it will be Verker or binary trees, or completely ZK proving that part, it's hard to say. I think we learned a lot from Verkal, and if we go binary trees, it will also a lot of this effort won't be wasted. We can salvage a lot of this effort, but yeah, that is a question. Now going back to EOF, there were some concerns about EOF raised some time ago, like when we were kind of scoping Fusaka, like CFIing it for Fusaka, but or including even then, but they weren't like crucial enough, like or decisive enough, let's say, that we decided to include it. Now we can take it out if needed. I don't. We can discuss if we should on the level of just EOF, but I would say it's a bit late for doing that. Like I said, I don't see anything wrong with EOF. So I would rather not do it. I would rather stick to it. But until like final decisions, everything is subject to change. But that's good. That's good. We don't want to like stick to wrong decisions, right? There's always room to change. That's how it should be.
So Marek, your CEO, Nethermind CEO, is joining the Ethereum Foundation as co-executive director. What do you make of that news? Was that come as a shock to you? What are your thoughts? Any thoughts that you have to share around Tomasz joining the EF? Because I imagine that also means less time for Nethermind things.
Yeah, so I'm both positive and surprised by these changes. And yeah, I think in terms of leadership in EF, Xiaowei knows EF well internally and has contributed significantly to consensus layer research, while Tomasz built large organization outside EF and he built execution layer from scratch. So this is like really powerful combination, and of course, just someone might accuse me of being biased because Tomasz is my boss technically still. Yeah, so I'm working in Nethermind, and we still don't know who will be the CEO of Nethermind. We will see in a few days. Yeah, but I'm very optimistic.
That's good. And just to confirm, I mean, Tomasz, he is going to be working more full time on Ethereum Foundation, but he's not completely uh, leaving Nethermind, correct? Like he'll still be part of maybe strategy or vision. Is that correct
Yes,
for the
yes. So
company?
he will be focused on vision of the company, but he will be not in the role of CEO.
One of the other things I wanted to talk about while you guys are here, because Łukasz and Marek, it is your first time on the Infinite Jungle. I've had developers from other client teams before, notably like Marius from the Geth team and Sean from Lighthouse. One of the things I'd love to hear from you guys is about what makes the Nethermind client different or unique from the other Ethereum clients. What's very notable about Nethermind is your guys' rise in popularity. Nethermind is on par, if not just slightly below the amount of adoption as Geth. When I last saw the client diversity charts, that is quite a feat for your guys' team. I think it's the first client to ever do so in Ethereum's history to get this much adoption in comparison to like the likes of Geth. Yeah, Marek, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so I believe why Nethermind has that big adoption, there are a few important factors. So validator performance. So um, it translates to how quickly Nethermind can process blocks. So the performance of block validation is important here, and generally performance. So Nethermind can be run with lower hardware requirements, and syncing performance. So how fast you can spin up a new nodes, and also the what users appreciate for sure is stability. So before every release, we are trying to test things as much as possible. We are running hundreds of nodes on different chains on with different consensus clients. Yeah, I think that are key aspects, but there might be more. Like for example, we have reached JSON RPC. We have plugin system, Discord support, so we always have a dedicated person and that is ready to help developers, node runners.
So if I can weigh in, there are different metrics and different use cases for nodes, right? For example, there are nodes for stakers. And this is exactly what Nevermind was focusing on for a long time to optimize for this use case. That was after the merge, it was our commitment. Yeah, we want to go to client diversity. Yes, we want to be the ones to champion it. We need to make node really useful for stakers, right? So this is stability, fast attestations, easy to spin up node, and fast to spin up node. But for example, there are other use cases for nodes. There are RPC providers that have completely different problems. Well, somewhat similar because they also spinning up the node is important for them, but they do it in different way. There are archive nodes that need completely different optimizations and focus, and you can do that, but it's hard to do everything at once. So there are different clients that specialize in different things. And yeah, our was for client diversity. We wanted to get that, so that's why also on the charts of stakers diversity, because this is basically what we are measuring here. Yeah, we are good. We are on similar levels as Geth, and maybe let me point it out here that this client diversity, for example, EOF, right? Some people are afraid of EOF. That it will be more bigger risk because there might be bugs, and the answer is there always will be bugs. But what I want to say with client diversity, if both Geth and Nevermind have a bug, same bug, right? At the moment, this is a bit problematic. We probably have to enshrine that bug in the protocol, at least for a short period of time, until we do additional fork with a fix for that bug. But if only one of those clients have a bug, then the result is not catastrophic, really. Because what happens? It happens that, okay, the node users that use one of the other potentially have a problem, but core devs generally can diagnose this which client is on the correct fork and which one has a bug in a matter of 1 hour, let's say. That's more or less how we did that in the past. And then especially institutional stakers have the setup where they can easily switch clients in production, right? So for example, let's say one of them has a bug, so they can switch the other, chain progresses, starts, even if it didn't finalize for an hour or two, it starts finalizing again. And historically, devs fixed their bugs in a matter of few hours and had a release. And that's fine. That's really great. That's what we wanted to achieve, to have this way that if one client has a bug, it's not a big deal. Okay, it's a bit bigger deal if multiple clients have the same bug, but again, then we can enshrine it in protocol, so it's also not a catastrophic event most of the time. The thing that Cholesky went how it went is we didn't want to enshrine it in the protocol, right? The configuration issue, because it was a configuration issue, was there, but we didn't want to enshrine it in the protocol because enshrining it in the protocol would be creating additional complex code just for Cholesky, which we didn't want to keep in any client. So we wanted to revert Cholesky to a bugless state, right, to kind of recover, and this caused the whole problem on Cholesky. On Sepoli, on the other hand, it was a bit different, so the fix was easy, and it was a minor thing, a minor blip. So yeah, that was what we wanted to achieve with client diversity, and that's what we were optimizing for. That's the answer.
I appreciate the plug for why client diversity is so important, Łukasz. I will note though, on both Holeshki and Sepolia, Geth and Nethermind had the same bug. It was Reth and Aragon that were on the minority chain. So like take it with a grain of salt. But okay, all right, I hear you. I agree. Client diversity is an important thing. And one thing that I wanted to mention with you guys, because I recently had on Piper Miriam from the Ethereum Foundation on the show to talk about history expiry. And the way he talked about history expiry was that it's a way to tailor your node for your specific use case even further. So it's not mandatory that every single client will need to deal with history expiry in the same way. Because Nethermind, like you said, is servicing and is so competitive for staking providers to utilize, your client is kind of optimized for that. How are you guys excited about the history expiry date? Like, tell me how the Nethermind client is going to change and be updated with the history expiry upgrade. Are there any particular like concrete improvements, like numbers wise, that you can share with the history expiry improvement? Like, how game changing do you think that's going to be for the competitiveness of your client?
First of all, nodes right now, full nodes are about 1 terabytes. I think this number is similar for Geth and Nethermind, but 80% of nodes are just history. And if you execute a new block, you don't need this history at all. But there is a concept that blockchains should be able to recreate the state from Genesis. Yeah, and I agree with that. This is important fact, but it doesn't mean that full nodes have to store this history. Yeah, and if we remove all history, but probably we will never remove all history, we will keep, I don't know, 1 year of history or 6 months, then the current node will be around 200 gigs, below 200 gigs. So it is a huge optimization that opens door for some scaling, for increasing throughput or for more blobs, etc., etc. Yeah, and I think in case of history expiry, there is no complexity in clients, and we could just configure our client now that we will remove this history. At least this is the case in Nethermind. But the hard part is to guarantee that this history will be preserved. So we will have other ways of storing history, like for example, Portal Network or ERA files. And right now, Nethermind client is ready to remove history with ERA files. So we need ERA files somewhere, and they can be uploaded to imported to Nethermind client and exported from Nethermind client as well. Yeah, and we are ready for pre-merge, and this will give 320 gigs, and this is a good start. And yeah, but we need coordination with all clients to do that.
So if I can weigh in, Nevermind is also probably one of the on the forefront of execution clients that have integration with Portal Network. We already have a working Portal Network integration. I think it still needs a bit of testing before we roll out. So we want to start with ERA files. But it is there, and I really love Portal, what they're doing there, and I really hope we can expire more history soon, not only pre-merge but also post-merge history. I'm excited to have a node that is really small, and then if we do statelessness, it will be really, really small.
I'd love to ask you guys questions about how you foresee at least the future of your guys' role and your guys' participation in Ethereum core development, and how you foresee kind of your roles at Nethermind potentially changing. First off, could you give us a little bit of a background of like how long you've been working on Ethereum core protocol development, and also what you're most excited for this year in terms of like your role at Nethermind, or what you're working on with the core protocol. Yeah, Marek, do you want to start off?
Yeah, so I think I'm trying to remind myself when I joined Nethermind. I think it's about 5 years or 4.5. Yeah, and about my role, I think I will continue whatever I'm doing. This is how I see my role. And to be honest, before I joined Nethermind, I didn't know much about blockchain. Yeah, after joining Nethermind, I read more and more about crypto. So I was a little bit lucky here. And yeah, I think Ethereum is extremely interesting project, and I still think that I can learn more and grow personally. Yeah, so that's my answer.
As for me, yeah, I probably also will stay more or less what I am. I had a few chances to go more into like bigger roles in Nevermind, but I'm really a technical guy, and I really want to stay technical, and I'm really happy here on the technical side rather than, for example, building a company. So I probably want to stay where I am. In terms of what I'm excited for, yeah, we definitely have few things cooking in terms of like performance improvements, both on the head processing and as well as maybe archive nodes competition. We'll see if we can manage to do that. Uh, I I don't have any concrete things. I would be really happy, for example, if some L2s would try to use our tech for scaling, right? A lot of people are using either Geth because Geth was for the longest time the most stable client, etc., and they forked and they kind of locked in. Some people are trying to use Ref at the moment. If it's starting, Nevermind is being recognized here. I would be happy to like find someone who would push our tech to the limits and see where the limits are, and maybe we can also help to transcend those limits. So yeah, that would be exciting. I'm see we'll get there.
That's very exciting. And who knows, pushing client diversity on the L2 side will probably make the L2 ecosystem that much more resilient and like you said, performant too.
Yes, to be honest, client diversity on L2s is less important. And okay, maybe on the base L2s, which would be more decentralized, the importance might grow. But so it depends. But generally, it's less important than L1s, due to technical reasons. But yeah, I really want to scale that Ethereum, right? And
Yeah.
using Nevermind is also. I'm curious if we would do how good of a job that would be, if our tech would be pushed to the limits, would do. And we can do our internal benchmarks, and we get some data, but like having a real world thing is, that's where you kind of prove things in production, not in benchmarks.
Just to add here, so right now on Ethereum mainnet, Nethermind is not used at all close to potential. So to keep some perspective, like the block on decent machine can process with Nethermind 20, 25 milliseconds mainnet Ethereum mainnet block, while the slot is 12 seconds. So it is a huge unused power still available. And yeah, I think we are kind of focused also on execution, on scaling execution. Yeah, and what Łukasz said, it will be great because as we know, L2s wants to increase throughput as much as possible, and we are kind of ready for that. Yeah, that's my 2 cents here.
That's, to be honest, we were talking about Surge. This is also what we wanted to launch and what we wanted to showcase, how far you can scale Nethermind client, because Surge will use the Nethermind client as execution. So that's something we want to have a showcase, right? So yeah, I can't wait to see how far we can go.
Very cool. Well, thank you for the updates. Lots to look forward to from the Nethermind team. Thank you so much, Łukasz and Marek, for joining me for this last episode of the Infinite Jungle.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It was great.
Thank you.
And thank you to all of the listeners who came back for this episode. I want to give a little bit of an extended thank you reel because this is the last episode and this is the last chance I'm going to be able to do this. So first of all, thank you so much to the production team. Thank you so much to Studio Friends for producing season 1 and season 2 of The Infinite Jungle. Without Studio Friends, this show would not exist, would not be what it is. Also, thank you so much to Jack, my brother, for supporting me as a podcaster since my early mapping out ETH 2.0 days. Thank you for being such a amazing cheerleader for me, especially as I was doing and launching another new podcast, This Infinite Jungle. And finally, of course, last but not least, thank you to Galaxy. Thank you so much to this company for supporting me over the last 3.5 years, I think it is, with all of my ambitions and all of my ideas to cover Ethereum development and governance. It has been a really wild but really good ride. I'm going to miss this show a lot. I'm going to miss hosting it a lot. But endings are only opportunities for new beginnings. So for the very last time, I am signing off from the concrete jungle that is New York City, in everybody's explorations of the infinite jungle that is Ethereum. Stay safe out there.